Hey friend, welcome and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Listen, if this is your first time here, then welcome. I give lighthearted reviews of some of my favorite TV shows and movies. So if this is something that interests you, consider sticking around. I am so glad you're here and I have a lot more content coming to my channel. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, today we are talking The Gilded Age. This is season 3, episode 4. This one is called Marriage is a Gamble. And I'll tell you, if I was a gambling woman, I would have gambled or bet that Gladys was not coming out of the room this episode. But honey, we're going to get into it as well as so much more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, y'all. Now, before we get into the shenanigans of this wedding, let's go over to the sister's house. We have Agnes and we have Ada, and it seems like Agnes is getting fitted for a brand new dress that she's going to wear to the wedding. She's trying to tell Ada, you know what? I think you need to go ahead and get one too. And she's just like, I don't know. Anyway, the seamstress is there, and I guess she's trying to collect her payment. And she's like, excuse me, ma'am, but I've ran this card a couple of times. It seems like it's coming back insufficient funds. Do you have another form of payment? And of course, Ada on cue, excuse me, Mrs. Luke Forte, I'll be handling all of the clothing bills from now on. So there we go again. Poor Agnes. She can't even buy a dress. So Agnes is like, listen, I'm getting ready to go to my charity committee meeting and I'll be back in a minute. And so Ada's like, when will you be back? She goes, yeah, I won't be too late. I'll be back before lunch. And so we know that this is probably the perfect time for Ada to get with Mrs. Bauer downstairs and find out what's going on with this psychic, and that's exactly what we do. So we got Madam Dashkova, and we've got Miss Bauer, and we've got Ada, and they're all in there. We got the lights drawn down, we got all the curtains closed, shutters shuttered up, and everything, and they're just in there just doing their little seance. And Madam Dashkova is saying all of the things, right? I see somebody, he's not too tall, he's not too short, he's not too thin, he's not too fat, he's perfect, it's just like Goldilocks in here. Then all of a sudden, she's like, and I think that I hear a message. I think that he's trying to tell us something from beyond the grave. Well, what is it, Madame Dashkova? So as soon as she's about to reveal it, honey, here comes Agnes. I guess she went down to the committee meeting and they told her that her services were no longer required. And so because she doesn't have the money, she can no longer be on the committee. But she busts in and she sees all this stuff going on. And honey, she puts the brakes on all of it. What is going on in here? Madam Dashkova, you're out of here. Mrs. Bauer, go back downstairs and go to work. And Ada, you need to have a little bit more sense than this. I mean, I understand that you're grieving, you lost your husband, but you need to be aware of stuff like this because people know that you have money and there are scammers out there. And I just can't believe that you let this woman in the house to do this. So Ada is just completely disgusted with it. But not Ada, Agnes is completely disgusted with it. But Ada is like, listen, I believe in it. And she even took her card. She took Madam Dashkova's card. So this is probably not going to be the last time that we see her because right when they were about to discover what it was that apparently Luke was supposed to be telling her through the grave, that's when Agnes busted in. So I really feel bad for Ada. I hope that she does find what she's looking for. I know that grief is hard and she did lose her husband. She wasn't married that long, but grief is grief. So let's hope Ada finds it. All right, let's talk about Larry and Jack. So we see Jack and he's downstairs and he's telling his coworkers that Larry did get a message back from Mr. Weston, which is one of the guys that he had went to go see, one of the investors he went to go see about the alarm clock when they had their meetings the last time they were together. So they both planned to go meet because Jack didn't really know if he should go or not. And, Bannister and all those down there were like, hey, you need to go, whether it's good news or bad news, you definitely need to be there. And I was so glad they gave him that advice because, you don't want to be the inventor of this thing. And then they want to go ahead and offer you something and you're not there. Now, I know that he does trust Larry, but Larry could have came back and said, hey, man, it's a wash. And then could have walked away with all the money and the patent and everything else. So I'm glad that he decided to go with Larry. Anyway, they're sitting there and Mr. Weston's got his right hand man there. And he's like, listen, let's just cut to the chase. I like it and I want it. I want to go ahead and buy the whole thing plus the patent from you. And I'm thinking 3, maybe 4. So Larry puts on his negotiator hat and he's just like, I was thinking six. Plus, we all know you guys are going to make a whole lot of money off of this invention. And so they kind of pause because they know it as well. And they're like, well, you drive a hard bargain, but I guess six it is. And Jack was probably looking like I was looking, like six what? $600? Six that like what? 6 million? What are we talking? So finally they're like $600,000. I was like, whoa. And Jack just looked like he saw a ghost, like he was gonna pass out. But oh my gosh, I was so happy for him. And you could tell that he was excited, just didn't know what to do, just all kind of emotions just looked like they were flooded. You can tell in his face. So anyway, they get back home and Jack is explaining to Larry, like, listen, so what do I do now? I don't know what to do. And, Larry's like, hey, let's go have a drink. This is a celebration. But for Jack, it's kind of not, I won't say it's not a celebration, but he's probably just, full of questions. What do I do? This is all I know is being a footman. And my family is the people that I work with and the people I work for. Like, I don't have anybody else. So he's keeping it close hold for now. He's not telling anybody. He walks in and, the staff, Bannister, and all those guys are like, well, are you going to tell us what happened? Did it go well or not? And he's like, yeah, I think it went pretty well, and he's just sort of really just keeping, just being humble with it all. Later on, he does tell Mrs. Bauer about it, and she like to had a heart attack. She dropped the bowl and everything, and she was just like, "Listen, you can't continue to work here, right? Like because Larry had already said you're going to be making definitely more than Mrs. Van Ryan. They're gonna leave my girl Agnes alone, leave her out of it, and just as much money as Ada." And so, wow, it's like, how do you work for somebody when, you're right there on them, right there with them as far as, status and money. So this whole thing is going to be so interesting, but I love that it's happening to Jack because he's so humble and he's going to do good. I really want Larry, and I'm saying this, but then I'm kind of like, but I really want Larry to give him some financial advice so that he can invest this money and not blow through it, right? Because we don't want him to be, you got all this money and 6 months later, you're right back where you started. I don't see that happening for Jack, but because of how he's so, I don't know what to do. What should I do? Like, this is the opportunity for people to be in his ear and be like, yeah, I think you should invest in this or that. And not saying that Larry is the most, not trusting person, but the person that has most of the answers as far as what to do as far as investing, because I haven't seen anything like that in the show. But it seems like he's kind of got his head on a little straight, so maybe he'll be able to point him in the right direction, and then Jack can take it from there. But kudos to Jack. I am so happy. I knew it was going to work out, and I'm excited to see what happens with this storyline. All right, you guys. So back over in Newport, we have Miss Elizabeth. She has invited Peggy and her mom, Dorothy, over for a visit. And so she tells Peggy that she did read her article. And she was like, I think that was kind of like an angry and violent subject that you wrote about. And I think the article that she's talking about may be the one that she wrote after her and Mr. Fortune's visit to Alabama when they went to go see Booker T. Washington. So, with all that drama that went on there, I think that might be the one that she's talking about. Anyway, Peggy's mom goes on to tell her that Peggy's interested in politics, and Elizabeth's kind of, just sitting there taking it all in. And she's like, well, as a colored woman, that's a long way to go. We are a long way from the vote. Peggy's like, well, I kind of beg to differ. Like, I really think it's going to happen, and it may even happen in my lifetime. Then again, there goes Elizabeth, just kind of taking her all in, kind of looking, kind of like, I don't know who she thinks she is. And then she's like, well, back in my day, my focus was on being a good wife and being a good mother. I really didn't have time for all that other stuff. And so Peggy kind of politely checks her because she can feel the shade. And she's like, well, I plan on being a good wife and a good mother as well, but I also want the vote. And, Peggy can't say nothing without the good doctor just, co-signing and just, oh, yeah, amen, hallelujah. That's the best thing I've ever heard. So he's just like, yeah, well said, well said. And I don't think that Miss Elizabeth is liking it. I don't think that she's liking how smitten the good doctor is with Peggy and, all the attention that's being placed. So anyway, she said, you know what? I want to come hear you speak. And so it seems like everyone's happy about that. But when she goes over there to hear her speak, it was just a complete disaster. So Peggy's up there, she's speaking, and she was talking about, the discrimination laws in the South and how, because of the Civil War, people of color, they kind of have earned the rights, and so we got to be careful with people trying to take those rights away. Anyway, after the meeting, Mrs. Fain, Aurora of all people, walks up to Peggy and is like, it's good to see you. And they speak and they have, just speaking. And Peggy just gives her well wishes. And then Aurora walks off. She did introduce her to her mom. And it was kind of interesting to see Aurora in Newport because we all know that that's what happens when you get divorced. I guess Aurora is settling into her new role. We all know this big wedding's going on. She wasn't invited. So she probably just, took off and went to Newport just to kind of stay out of sight, out of mind. But anyway, they noticed that Dr. Kirkland and the mom and dad are all over there. So they go over to, thank them for coming. And it just turns into something crazy with Miss Elizabeth. She just goes in on Arthur and he ain't even there. She was like, well, where's Arthur? And Dorothy was like, well, Arthur's back in Brooklyn. He's not here in Newport with us this weekend or whatever. And she just starts, well, he's not really Newport type now, is he? He's not, just like, not like you and I and the rest of us. He came up a little different, sort of. And it's like, okay, girl, why don't you just say it? He was enslaved, and now you think you're better than he because he was enslaved. And so, of course, Dorothy stood up for her husband. I was so glad that she did, and she was like, "Listen, my husband's a good father. He's a good provider. He's very honorable. And what's the problem? How was he different?" And so the good doctor's daddy had to step in, like, he's not any different than anybody else. And, he kind of checks Elizabeth with kind of leaving her with a little bit of dignity. Like, listen, Newport is not the end all be all, to everybody. So let's just calm down on all of that. And so after that, she didn't even apologize for any of it. She was just like, "Okay, well, we're gonna go now. William, are you coming?" And he's just like, "Yes, Mama, I'm coming." He went on with her. So now I'm kind of thinking, I don't know about the good doctor, but Dorothy was upset about that. Like, what was that? I don't appreciate the way she came off. And so now Peggy got to see firsthand how Elizabeth was, because she didn't see it the first time that they met, but she saw it firsthand this time, and she wasn't happy about it either. And you can tell by the look on Peggy's face, she's probably second guessing this relationship with her and a good doctor. But we'll see. Maybe Dr. William can get his mama in check, but I don't think that that's happening. I don't think so. Poor Peggy, because I really wanted this to work out for her. We'll see what happens, y'all. All right, y'all, let's talk about this wedding. So, we remember from last episode, George stood up and told everybody in front of God and country that Gladys is, in fact, engaged to the Duke. So, we know that the engagement is on. We know how Gladys feels about it. And we also see now that it looks like they're preparing for a wedding. Looks like this wedding is going to take place probably in about 2 or 3 days. We see that the staff are busy. The house looks amazing. The flowers are there. Bertha has called a meeting for all of the staff. Hey, look, I'm sorry that I have gotten you guys away from your duties, but I just wanted to let you know that this is very, very important. You guys are not going to drop the ball. I need you guys to step in, step up, get this done. No mistakes, right? One team, one fight. Everybody bring it in. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, teamwork. So everybody disperses. Then we see Church and the rest of the essential staff members over here. And we see Gladys's maid. And she's like, will we be seeing Miss Gladys? Is she coming down anytime soon? And so Bertha and Bertha fashion is like, well, Miss Gladys is getting her rest right now. And when Miss Gladys is finished resting, then I assure you that she will be downstairs. Okay, very good. All right. So we don't know what's going on with Gladys, but it sounds like she does not want to come out of her room, and I don't blame her. Now, next thing we see is Larry talking to Bertha, and I guess apparently one of the bridesmaids has gotten sick, under the weather or something, and there's an opening. Well, there's an opening. There's only one person that can fill in, and that's Marion. So he brings that up to Bertha, and Bertha's like, I mean, I was thinking maybe, Mrs. Astor's daughter, or Mrs. Moneybuck's daughter, whoever, she's looking for big, prominent names, people that are somebody in society. And so Larry's like, well, what's going on with Marion? Why don't you want her? I mean, Gladys likes her. I thought you liked her. Everybody likes her. I like her. I mean, why not Gladys? And she's like, look, you're forcing my hand with this thing here, but once your sister gets married, she's going to be probably one of the most important people in New York and in England. And honestly, Marion Brooke just doesn't compare to that. Like she doesn't add up. So we're not even going there. We don't even want to do that with her. But Larry is like, this does not make me happy. I am not, I don't understand what's going on with you, but no, we really need to have Marion be a bridesmaid. So even George was like, man, do you have to follow your sword for everything? Like, man, why don't you just let one go? And so she's like, okay, okay. Send a footman with a note over there to her. Tell her, she can be a bridesmaid. So, and I hope you're happy about that. Now, while they're all in there talking, she's reading the paper and she sees that I guess there's a leak in the house. Somebody is leaking secrets about this wedding and sending it over to the newspaper. So she is very, very upset about this. Church has a meeting with the staff and it's like, look, I don't know who's doing this, but the way that Mrs. Russell is acting right now, she's liable to fire all of us. So we need to get down to the bottom of who's leaking these secrets because this is the last thing that we need. So the staff is kind of concerned about it because they don't want to lose their job. And we all know how Bertha is. She's just ruthless enough to do that, to fire everybody. So they're even going so far as to say, well, maybe it was the seamstress or maybe it was somebody else. Maybe, the leak is not coming from the house. And so Church is like, well, that's a good point. I will make sure that I let them know that, the next time that I talk to her. So I don't know who's leaking these secrets, but somebody is telling it. At first, I thought that it was going to be Bertha that was actually leaking it. And it very well could be because, I don't put anything past Bertha. But I hope they get down to the bottom of it, but they probably won't. I don't know who it is, but well, I kind of got a idea because I was kind of thinking that it was Gladys's lady's maid, but I don't know because she's doing a whole lot of. Well, what if it was this person? What if it was that person? I'm like, yeah, you're doing a little bit too much talking. Was it you? So we'll see what happens with that. All right, so we have Larry, Bertha, and George. They're still in there talking, and Larry asks Bertha, "Hey, did you invite Aunt Monica? Is she coming to the wedding?" And Bertha's like, "Aunt Monica? Like, why would I invite her?" Larry's like, she's your sister, and she's probably like the only living relative on that side of the family. Like, why wouldn't you invite her?" So here's Bertha with all the excuses and him and Han. Oh, she's probably not going to want to come. She probably doesn't have anything to wear. Or she's coming from Albany. She's not going to fit in. And so Larry checks her and it's like, or is it that you think she's going to embarrass you? I mean, what are you trying to do, Mom? You trying to rewrite history? Like, what's going on here? And George got a little bit of a giggle out of that. But anyway, you can clearly see that Bertha is not here for her sister Monica coming to remind her of where she came from. And especially, with this big event going on, we can't have any distractions or anything like that that's going on. So no sooner than they're talking about her, Church comes in like, excuse me, ma'am, you have a visitor, a Miss Monica O'Brien. And they're like, Monica O'Brien? Well, where does she come from? Right. So Bertha is completely annoyed by it. They all go down to greet her. And of course, Larry's happy. Hey, Aunt Monica. George is happy to see her. Gladys is still up in the room. And the very first thing that Bertha says is, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, dang, can you give her a hug or something? I mean, and so Monica is like, well, I'm here because I wrote Larry back because he wrote me. I was invited to come to this wedding. Like, what are you talking about? So if looks could kill, I mean, because the way that Bertha was looking at Larry, she was upset with him. So she's like, well, where's Gladys? And Bertha's like, well, Gladys is up in her room resting. And she's like, in a matter of fact, I'm going to go check on her now. And she looks at Larry one more time. And Larry's like, yeah, let me go with you. So Bertha and Larry go to check on Gladys while George gets Monica squared away and settled in and everything. And I am tickled. I love it. You can tell by looking at Monica that she's down home folk. She's not dressed all extravagant and got all the bells and whistles on. I mean, she's just got her little dress on or whatever. And then Later on, we see that Bertha is actually trying to change her. Well, we've got a dinner that's going on with the Duke, and the Duke is actually bringing his sister as well. And I need for you to try on this dress and that dress. And Monica's like, I don't need to be trying on no dresses. I'm going to wear what I got on right here, and this is going to be fine for the dinner. And I'm thinking that Monica is older than Bertha because not a lot of people tell Bertha what to do, but it just seems sort of like, Monica is saying things to her and she's actually humbling herself a little bit. So I think that Monica is the older sister, but they are having a dinner for the Duke and his sister, who is also coming from the UK. So we're going to see how this dinner turns out. I hope it's something exciting. Okay, y'all. Now this dinner had me cracking up. So we're at the dinner. I guess we can call this the rehearsal dinner. We do not have Gladys. She's still holed up in her room, refusing to come downstairs. So we have Monica. We have the Duke and his sister. We get to meet Lady Sarah. Hey, girl. Hey. We also have Larry. We have the Russells. So they're all sitting there. They're having dinner, and Monica is just playing 20 questions with Lady Sarah. Do you have any kids? Are you married? Are you single? Like, what's going on with you? And what's going to happen once the Duke brings Gladys back to the house? Are you moving out or what's going on? And so, Lady Sarah is just like, well, I never thought about that. Hector, what say you? And Hector was like, yeah, I never gave it any thought. And so Monica, I think she's being a little messy, having a little fun with it. She was like, I wonder what Gladys thinks about that. And as soon as she did, she took a sip of her coffee and ended up spilling it all over her dress. Now, I know that this was all Bertha's doing because Bertha had asked a question earlier after they finished eating dinner on where they were going to take their coffee, either here or in the drawing room or wherever. And she gave Church a glance. And I don't know what that was about. But later on, we find out that the coffee was actually cold. So I'm not sure why she ended up spilling it all over her, but I definitely know that was planned because Bertha didn't want Monica to wear that dress tomorrow for the wedding. So anyway, Monica gets up. She's very upset. She's like, oh, I'll send Mrs. Bruce to help you out. She's like, don't send her. I'm good. I can walk up the steps myself. So she goes away. Later on that night, George goes in to talk to Bertha one more time because Gladys has not come out of the room. And now here we are the night before the wedding. We don't know what's going to happen. And so he comes out and he's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is all your fault. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to drag her to the church. And so Bertha's like, well, I mean, what do you expect we do? If this doesn't happen, we're going to be laughing stocks. Is that what you want? And just talking to him all kind of way, told him to go to bed and wake up with some sense. And it was just a lot. It was a mess. But anyway, back to the dinner, I thought it was interesting that Bertha was saying goodnight to the Duke and his sister. And she was like, so, you can go ahead and call me Bertha since we're family. And Lady Sarah was like, well, yeah, technically, almost, maybe. So I don't think that Lady Sarah's feeling this whole thing either. And definitely not feeling Bertha. She's like, I'm not calling you by your first name. I'll call you Mrs. Russell. We good over here. So anyway, that was the rehearsal dinner, a complete disaster. I thought it was funny, but let's get to this wedding. Tomorrow is the wedding day. Okay, y'all. So it is the day of the wedding. Gladys is still not coming out of the room. So Bertha sends a note over to Marian's to have her come over to try to talk to Gladys and maybe talk her out of the room. So once they get there, Gladys is trying to give her some examples about how, sometimes planned marriages do work out and sometimes, marriages based on love don't work out. I mean, take the Astor sisters. We got the one Charlotte Astor who they fell in love with each other, but now is all these rumors about her cheating and they're dueling out in the streets. Then you have the other sister, the other Astor sister, it was an arranged marriage and they're just as happy as can be. So I guess she's trying to convince her that, it can happen. You can have an arrangement that actually does work out. Um, Gladys is still not convinced, so she's still sitting there. So Marion is like, are you going to take Ada Hyde with you? And she's like, yeah, my mom wants me to take her just to train up another lady's maid. And then once that person's trained up, she's going to go back to New York. Now, meanwhile, George is summoned to go to the office because JP Morgan is there and he is upset. He's like, listen, I'm out of the deal. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to lose all my money. And if you lose your money, if Russell Industries goes under, everyone's going to lose their money. And I'm out of here. I'm out. So I can't do it no more. So Mr. Russell is just like, listen, I don't care what he says. I'm still going to do it. Still going to have my railroad and it's all going to be good. And so his coworker is like, or his assistant. I don't know who that guy's name. I didn't get his name, but anyway, he's always with them when it comes to business. And he's like, well, what about the money? And George is like, well, there's always money. It's just a matter of where to get it. And immediately I thought about Jack and Larry. I was like, oh my God, I hope this is not going to be the money that he's talking about, but it might be a good thing. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so we have Bertha back at the house. She's leaving the house. She's all dressed and ready. George is telling her, hey, your carriage is here. Go ahead and go. I'm going to take care of Gladys. He goes up, he talks to Gladys. He's like, listen, if you would have came to me and told me this when I first got home, I would have tried to stop it. But right now, we're talking wedding day. It's a little bit too late to be pulling out on the wedding day. So he's like, listen, I'm not going to force you. I'm going to go back downstairs. But in about 10 minutes or so, if you don't come out, then I'm just going to send word to the church and that's just going to be it. Now, over at the church, everybody and their mother is gossiping about Mrs. Astor's daughter, so much so she had to leave her home. She was like, look, honey, I don't need that kind of scandal today. You stay home. But it's already too late. Like the paper had already got word of it. So everybody and their mother's talking about it. We see Miss Winterton, aka Turner, and her messy self going up to Mr. I think his name is Mr. McAllister, late Nathan Lane's character, and Mrs. Fish, the neighborhood gossip, talking about, is it true? Is it true about Astor's husband wanting to fight in the streets and do a duel? And so we find out that also Mrs. Winterton's husband is dying. So I guess they're going to explore that and get into that a little bit later. Now, back at the house, we have Mr. Bourdon, who is the quote unquote French chef, but really he's not. And he proposes to Mrs. Bruce. Miss Bruce said, listen, I can't marry you because I'm already married. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but my husband's in an insane asylum. And the only way that we can get a divorce is if he cheats. And we know he can't do that. So I'm just going to stick by him because I have to. He's all I got. Um, and I just don't want to turn my back on him. So, Mr. Borden has thought that that was very honorable for her to do that. So they're probably still going to continue to date, but I don't think marriage is going to be in the cards for them, not right now. Anyway, back at the church, we see people are seemingly getting restless, and Bertha's making her round, saying hi to everybody. She kind of insults Mrs. Astor, but really didn't mean to because she don't know what's going on. She's been so engulfed in this wedding. But we also see the Duke and Lady Sarah. Lady Sarah's just like, listen, am I ever going to meet Gladys? Is she coming today? Has she come out her room? What's going on? And so Bertha's like, yeah, they were right behind me. They must got caught up in traffic. Lies, Bertha, straight up lies. Anyway, before Sarah sat down, she told the Duke to try not to laugh. I don't know where that's coming from. Like, he doesn't seem to be, goofy, like he would just get up there and just laugh. I don't know. Anyway, so I thought that that was weird. Now, George and Gladys, they do get to the church. And once again, George is like, all right, we're here. So what's next? And Gladys is like, well, just like what you said, it's a little bit too late now. So I got to do what I got to do. She's walking up the aisle and I feel so bad for her. She cried the entire way up the aisle. She gets there and they're like, if anybody knows, why these two shouldn't be wed and holy matrimony, speak now. And then the camera panned to Monica, and I was like, go ahead, Monica, say it, say it, say it, say it. Monica didn't say it. Nobody said it. They went on ahead and they got married. So later on that night, I guess they're already cruising back to the UK. And she's talking to Idlehyde. She's getting her together, and Idlehyde leaves out. And then here comes the creepy Duke talking about some. Did your mama tell you about the wedding night and things that you're supposed to do as a married woman as opposed to a single woman? And I'm like, if you don't go somewhere, go lay down. Aren't you tired? And that's what Gladys asked him. But no, he wasn't tired. He was trying to get busy. So that's what they did. And that's how the episode went off. I'm so disgusted. Like, I just want to, I don't know. I thought it was a good episode. I loved it, but I'm just so disappointed in this whole thing. I really hope that Gladys is protected over there. I'm here for the sister, both sisters. I hope they keep Bertha's sister in the mix, as well as the Duke's sister. Very, very entertaining. But other than that, you guys let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know what you thought about the wedding. And I will see you the next time we do it. All right. Bye.